The high-rise at 555 California Street towers over San Francisco's financial district. From my glass-walled office on the 60th floor, I gaze down at the city below. It's 6 p.m., and the setting sun casts a golden glow over San Francisco Bay. My desk is piled high with IPO proposals, and the walls are adorned with my feature articles from prestigious financial magazines. I'm Rachel Anderson. Looking up from the quarterly financial reports spread across my desk, I let out a deep sigh. As CFO of a fintech company valued at over $1 billion, my decisions now affect the lives of thousands of employees. The M&A deal I'd been working on through the night just yesterday had finally been signed. I rub my tired eyes, savoring a small sense of accomplishment. Opening my desk drawer, I take out an invitation. On cream-colored premium paper, golden letters dance elegantly. It's an invitation to a wedding next month in Napa Valley. The ceremony will be held in the stone chapel at Robert Mondavi Winery. As I gaze at it, I whisper to myself. This time, I thought I could grasp happiness. Those words carry both past struggles and new hope. As I stare at the twilight cityscape outside my window, my thoughts drift back to 7 years ago. I was 25 when I joined Goldman Sachs as a new graduate. Fresh out of Stanford with an MBA, I was brimming with ambition. I still vividly remember the nervousness I felt walking into the office for the first time, dressed in a brand new Chanel suit. That's where I met Thomas Anderson. At just 28, he was already known as a rising star in venture capital, a promising investor. Always dressed in Brooks Brothers' finest suits with a Cartier tank watch on his wrist, he exuded sophistication cultivated through first-class education and upbringing. Our first meeting was in a conference room on the 22nd floor. It started when I responded precisely to his sharp questions during a presentation. Thomas stood 6 feet 2 inches tall, wearing a deep gray suit that complemented his intellectual air. With his Harvard Business School background, his refined appearance and demeanor marked him as the perfect gentleman in everyone's eyes. Your analysis is outstanding. Would you care to discuss it in more detail sometime? After the meeting, he invited me to Gary Danko. Our conversation at the Michelin-starred restaurant ranged from investment strategies to classical music and contemporary art. As champagne bubbles danced, he spoke about the relationship between Debussy and Monet, and I was captivated by his depth of knowledge. I feel like we could have even deeper conversations. I gradually opened my heart to his intelligence, refinement, and above all, his sincere character. On weekends, we'd visit wineries in Napa Valley, enjoying sunsets over wine. He fully supported my career and promised that wouldn't change after marriage. After dating for a year, we got married. The ceremony was held at Grace Cathedral, with 300 of San Francisco's business elite in attendance. White rose petals carpeted the aisle, and light streaming through the stained glass windows cast a blessed radiance. We made our new home in Pacific Heights' luxury residential area, known as Billionaire's Row. Our newlywed life began in a 5,000-square-foot mansion overlooking the Bay Area. Fresh flowers adorned the living room weekly amidst antique furniture, and from the terrace, we could gaze upon the majestic Golden Gate Bridge. At first, my mother-in-law Carol doted on me like her own daughter. A former senator's secretary, she possessed refined manners and solid education. With her silver gray hair elegantly styled and subtle luxury jewelry, she epitomized upper-class sophistication. Weekend dinners at their home became tradition, where Carol taught me recipes passed down through Boston's old families. We were frequently invited to golf at the Olympic Club and parties at St. Francis Yacht Club. I gradually grew accustomed to conversations with senators and corporate CEOs. "Rachel, you're the ideal daughter-in-law for our family." Carol embraced me with those words. I still vividly remember the scent of her Chanel No. 5 perfume. However, about a year into the marriage, her words gradually began to carry pressure. One Sunday, during an elaborate brunch, Carol casually mentioned while sipping her tea, "I'd love to see a grandchild soon." Those words eventually transformed into persistent expectations. "We're counting on you for an Anderson family heir. Thomas is the eldest son. It's your duty to bear children who will carry on this lineage." What started as gentle wishes gradually became heavy obligations. The questioning glances exchanged during meals, "Not yet?" weighed on my shoulders like a burden. As we entered our second year of marriage, we began seriously trying to conceive. Treatment at Pacific Fertility Center proved more grueling than I'd imagined. Daily injections, frequent hospital visits, hormone medication side effects. Fitting appointments between work exhausted me both physically and mentally. The intensive fertility treatment schedule completely dominated my life. IVF cost $20,000 per attempt. Over 3 years, the non-covered medical expenses exceeded $150,000. While the financial burden wasn't a major issue for us, Thomas's expression grew darker with each failure. Days passed with me going to the hospital before early morning meetings, getting blood tests and injections, wiping away tears in the restroom before heading to the conference room. "Failed again." His voice clearly showed irritation. The words of my husband, who should have been supportive, had become cold thorns piercing my heart. While I continued playing the perfect CFO at the office, nights were sleepless with treatment pain and anxiety. I calculated ovulation days with machine-like precision, took medication and gave myself injections at specified times. With each failure, I blamed myself. Every weekend dinner, as I failed to meet Carol's expectant gaze, my guilt grew. Looking at my reflection in the high-rise window, those memories come back vividly. How many tears had I shed behind the mask of a successful career woman? In the examination room at Pacific Fertility Center as the sun was setting, Dr. Johnson slowly began speaking while spreading out test results on his desk. "Rachel, I'm sorry, but your ovarian function has significantly declined." In that moment, my world stopped. I felt Thomas's breathing grow rough beside me. The possibility of pregnancy is considered nearly zero. Each word struck my heart like a hammer blow. The white walls of the examination room suddenly felt like they were crushing me. "Is there any other way?" My voice trembles. "Surrogacy might be an option, but..." Thomas stood up, interrupting the doctor. His expression showed a coldness I'd never seen before. Over the next few weeks, Thomas changed rapidly. His gentle smile vanished, replaced only by silence and cold stares. His return time grew later each day, and he was increasingly absent on weekends, claiming important deals. Our weekend brunches together were now just memories. One night at 2 a.m., Thomas came home unusually drunk. There was unfamiliar lipstick on his shirt collar. His smartphone frequently received messages from an unknown woman. The name Emily. Thank you for the wonderful time yesterday. Want to meet again? My hands trembled as I stared at the screen. Tears blurred the text. Our conversations became minimal. At breakfast, we avoided each other's eyes, pretending to read newspapers, and spent nights in separate rooms. Our 5,000 square foot mansion was filled with sudden silence. Then that day came. Friday night, I received a message from Thomas. Please come to Mother's house at 8 tonight. With a sense of foreboding, I headed to my mother-in-law's house. Passing through the heavy gates and rose-filled front garden, this place that once warmly welcomed me now emanated in strange pressure. Opening the reception room door, Thomas and Carol were waiting. In the firelight casting ominous shadows, their expressions were cold as ice. Sit down. Carol's voice held none of its former kindness. Thomas spoke. That moment would dramatically change my life. I've reached my limit. He stood up and looked down at me. I waited 3 years. I can't take it anymore. What value does an infertile woman have? A woman who can't continue the Anderson bloodline has no right to exist. His roar echoed through the reception room. Even the portraits on the walls seemed to condemn me. Thomas. Though I called his name with a trembling voice, he wouldn't listen. Marrying you was a mistake. Emily is already pregnant. We're starting a new life. Carol joined in. Rachel, you've disappointed us. Leave this house immediately. I stood up. My legs were shaking. Their cold stares pierced my back as I walked toward the door. In the hallway leading to the entrance, our wedding photos on the walls now seemed a cruel irony. That night, I took a room at a luxury hotel. The San Francisco night view from the window appeared distorted through my tears. The next morning, I took action. I contacted Sarah Cohen, San Francisco's most highly regarded divorce attorney. In her office, I told her everything: the pain of fertility treatments, Thomas's infidelity, and last night's events. It's all right, Rachel. You have legal rights. Sarah squeezed my hand. Evidence gathering began. Photos of Thomas and Emily at hotels, records of restaurant meetings, late-night phone records. And most decisively, recordings of his emotional abuse. This clearly constitutes emotional domestic violence, Sarah said while reviewing the evidence. In court, Thomas's cruel attitude decisively turned the judge against him. In the final judgment, I was awarded 45% of his assets, amounting to $5.8 million. However, what mattered most to me was gaining the freedom to start a new life. The day the divorce was finalized, I submitted my resignation to Goldman Sachs. Then I accepted an offer from a rapidly growing fintech startup. The morning sun visible from my new office window felt like the dawn of my life. But I didn't know yet that the happiness gained through this pain would mark the beginning of new trials. About a year after the divorce, I was gradually regaining myself. My work as CFO at the fintech startup had reawakened my passion. That day too, I was heading to a tech industry and networking event at an innovation center in the Mission District. The venue was a modern space featuring glass and wood elements. Up-and-coming Silicon Valley entrepreneurs were discussing new business possibilities. While enjoying conversations with investors, champagne glass in hand, it happened. That was an excellent presentation. Turning around at the warm voice behind me, there stood a man. Daniel Foster, 37. 6 feet tall with graying black hair and kind eyes. His Tom Ford Navy suit further enhanced his sophisticated presence. I'm the Executive Vice President of Meditech Innovations, a medical device manufacturer. His business card bore the title from one of San Francisco's leading medical device manufacturers. Our conversation flowed naturally. From technology's potential in healthcare to corporate management in the AI era, and even art and literature. In that intellectual conversation, I felt a gentleness without any pushiness. Would you like to have dinner sometime? I hesitated slightly at his invitation. However, in his sincere gaze, I sensed none of the calculation I'd known before. Our first dinner was at Nobu, San Francisco. From our special window seat, we had a panoramic view of the night scene. Daniel was a Stanford Medical School graduate who had been involved in medical support activities in impoverished areas. A person's worth isn't determined by titles or circumstances. What matters is how they choose to live. Those words helped me gradually open my heart. On weekends, we went to Napa Valley, where he explained each wine in detail during a tasting tour at Robert Mondavi Winery. When I tried to photograph the wine names written on the blackboard, he thoughtfully took notes and handed them to me. Such considerate gestures made me feel warmth. While sailing at St. Francis Yacht Club, he skillfully handled the yacht in the sea breeze. I've been sailing with my father since childhood. Out on the water, all worries seem small. Watching the sunset glinting on the waves, I slowly began to talk about my past. About the fertility treatments, the difficult days with my ex-husband. Rachel, a person's worth isn't determined by whether they have children. Your value lies in who you are as a person. Tears fell. They were tears of relief, not pain. On holidays, I accompanied him to children's hospital charity events he was involved with. Watching Daniel interact gently with children fighting cancer. His gaze as he worked on medical device development held a strong will to help people's happiness. Technology has the power to change people's lives. That's why we must use it correctly. I deeply resonated with those words. One night, 8 months into our relationship, Daniel invited me to Saison, a high-end restaurant overlooking San Francisco Bay. Under a starlit sky, the private terrace was decorated with white roses, and champagne was chilling. I wanted to make tonight special. At the end of dinner, the dessert that arrived was an exquisitely decorated chocolate plate. In its center was a small blue box. My heart raced. Daniel quietly stood and knelt before me. Rachel, meeting you has been the greatest fortune of my life. Your painful past has made you who you are today. I accept and love all of it. The sparkle of the 2-carat diamond from Cartier's latest collection seemed to prophesy our future. Let's accept the past as past. And begin a new life, together. My tears blurred his image. This time, I felt a certainty of happiness. Yes. With that word, warm applause echoed through the restaurant. Outside the window, the bay's night view seemed to shine with blessing. However, a dark shadow I couldn't even imagine was creeping up on this perfect happiness. I hadn't yet noticed that the hand with which Daniel gently held mine was the hand of cruel revenge. On what should have been the climax of my life, I was awake early in the bridal suite. The finest suite room on the grounds of Robert Mondavi Winery in Napa Valley. Outside the large windows stretched vineyards wrapped in morning mist. In the distance, California mountains gleamed in the spring sunlight. It was 6 a.m. 6 hours until the wedding. On different floors of the same building, staff were already busy with preparations. A catering team from New York had arrived the day before, and a flower design team from Los Angeles had worked through the night completing venue decorations. "Good morning, Rachel." Wedding planner Jessica visited the suite first thing. Behind her waited the hair and makeup team and dress assistants. "Today is your special day." I nodded slightly at those words. My reflection in the mirror showed a mix of expectation and nervousness. Preparations began. The pure white Vera Wang wedding dress was completely custom-made. Delicate lace and crystal beading from neckline to hem sparkled in the morning light. Over 100 small pearl buttons lined the back of the dress, and the 3-meter train featured luxurious antique lace. "You're truly beautiful," Sarah, my bridesmaid, exclaimed in admiration. In my hair was an antique ornament inherited from my grandmother, and the tiara was a special order from Cartier. The delicate design of diamonds and pearls further enhanced my expression. Staff kept arriving for final confirmations. The path to the ceremony site was lined with lanterns decorated with pure white organza ribbons, and at the chapel entrance stood an arch of white and pink roses. Outside the window, limousines were beginning to arrive. 200 guests. Representative entrepreneurs from Silicon Valley, investors, and Daniel's medical device industry contacts. Women dressed in spring attire, men in tuxedos. The chapel was adorned with white and pink roses, with crystal candle holders lining both sides of the Virgin Road. A custom floral wall was installed at the altar, and delicate crystal chandeliers elegantly sparkled from the ceiling. "The bouquet has arrived." The bouquet the assistant brought in was an elegant arrangement of pure white calla lilies, freesias, and baby's breath. The stems were wrapped in antique lace and pearls, with "Forever Love" embroidered in gold thread on the ribbon. On the table in the waiting room lay a letter from Daniel. "To my beloved Rachel. I feel true happiness on this special day." I held the letter to my chest. This second marriage. I believed I could finally grasp true happiness this time. As the clock struck 2 p.m., the ceremony time drew near. Pipe organ music began flowing from the chapel. It should have been the sound announcing the beginning of a new life. In the front row sat an elderly couple introduced as Daniel's parents. Then, police stopped the wedding ceremony. The chapel doors burst open, and a female detective displaying a San Francisco police badge rushed in with 4 officers. "I'm Detective Elizabeth Morrison. I apologize, but we must stop this wedding ceremony." The venue froze. All 200 guests drew in their breath at once, creating a commotion. Investors seated in the front rows stood up, looking around in confusion. "Please look at this photograph." The photo Detective Elizabeth held out showed Daniel talking with someone in the VIP lounge of Equinox, a luxury fitness club. And his companion was Thomas, my ex-husband. The date was 1 month before I met Daniel. Rachel. Daniel's expression at the altar transformed completely. That gentle smile vanished, replaced by a cold, calculating smirk. It was like the expression of a stranger, cold and calculated. Daniel Foster's real name is Mark Collins. He's a marriage fraudster. Detective Elizabeth's voice echoed through the silent chapel. Her voice was cruelly clear. After dropping out of junior college, he served 3 years for investment fraud. After release, he scammed women across 5 states out of $2 million through marriage fraud. My knees trembled. The sound of the bouquet hitting the floor echoed unusually loud. And the mastermind behind this plan is... Detective Elizabeth produced another photograph. A picture from the Ritz Hotel bar. Daniel, no, Mark shaking hands with Thomas. The date was right after my divorce. A young officer's voice rang out. There was a commotion outside the chapel windows. Thomas was trying to escape hurriedly from a black Mercedes parked at the back. You were planning to witness your revenge until the very end, weren't you? Detective Elizabeth nodded at my whisper. The $5.8 million settlement had certainly ruined Thomas's life. He lost credibility at his investment fund and had to give up his luxury home in Pacific Heights. His mother Carol cried every day, and his reputation in the tech industry was destroyed. For that revenge, Thomas had met Mark at the Equinox members' gym and planned the perfect revenge against me. The 8 months of dating, the position as a medical device company executive, the charity work, everything was meticulously planned revenge. Looking back, every encounter had been too perfect. The chance meeting at the tech industry networking event. The conversations tailored to my preferences. The kind words understanding my infertility. It was all calculated acting. We have an arrest warrant. Mark Collins, you're under arrest. The officers approached the altar. Mark showed no sign of resistance, rather laughing as if amused. Well done, Rachel. Your look of despair is the perfect revenge. Outside the window, Thomas, who had attempted to flee, was being restrained by officers. There was something absurd about seeing him sprawled on the grass in his expensive suit. Ms. Rachel, are you all right? Detective Elizabeth placed her hand on my shoulder. That hand felt like the only reality supporting me now. The 2-carat diamond engagement ring sparkled emptily. This too must be fake. Why, didn't I notice? Their plan was perfect. But information about him came in from the LA branch, and finally everything connected. 200 guests looked on with confusion and sympathy. The $100,000 dress, custom cake, luxurious decorations. Everything had been just props in a cruel farce. Detective Elizabeth continued quietly. Ms. Rachel, you're a victim. And because of this case, many women might be saved. The sunlight streaming through the chapel windows had begun casting shadows. With trembling hands, I placed the bouquet on the altar. The pure white calla lilies seemed like innocent witnesses to this farce. It's over. Those words meant the end of the wedding, the end of the revenge plot, and determination for a new beginning, all at once. The pipe organ music in the chapel slowly faded away. Only the sound of the dress's hem, adorned with 100 pearl buttons, quietly sweeping the floor echoed in the silent space. Outside, 2 patrol cars drove away, carrying Mark and Thomas separately. This was the end of my perfect wedding. 1 year later. San Francisco Federal District Court. Mark Collins received a 15-year prison sentence. My ex-husband Thomas Anderson also received a 7-year sentence as an accomplice. After the sentencing, as I descended the courthouse steps, I looked up at the sky. The clear autumn sky seemed to herald a new beginning. I had changed greatly since that wedding. Rather than being trapped in sadness and anger, I wanted to transform this experience into something meaningful. Then one night, inspiration struck. There must be something technology can do to prevent marriage fraud. I trusted my intuition and formed a team. AI engineers, data scientists, security experts. I mobilized all my connections as CFO of a fintech company. After 6 months of development, we launched TrustBond, a marriage fraud prevention app. AI learns patterns from past marriage fraud cases and detects suspicious behaviors and inconsistencies. It also includes a 24-hour expert consultation system. This isn't an app for doubting loved ones. It's another set of eyes for building healthy relationships. Those words I spoke on a CNN special resonated with many people. The app received an overwhelming response, surpassing 1 million downloads in 6 months. The Wall Street Journal ran a feature article titled "Technology Forging New Bonds of Trust." But what meant most to me were the thank you messages we received. Thanks to this app, I noticed a dangerous relationship. We were able to prevent my mother from becoming a victim of marriage fraud. It became an opportunity to have serious discussions about trust with my partner. Looking at my image on the Times Square billboard, I think to myself, everyone fears being hurt. But we can't let that fear control us. True worth lies within yourself. That's what I said in a Fox News interview. My past with infertility, divorce, and being a victim of marriage fraud, all of it makes me who I am today. You don't need to live for someone else's approval. Just weave your life story with your own words. My words reached the hearts of many women with similar experiences. And that solidarity grew into a new movement. Now, from my office window, I can see San Francisco Bay. The waves sparkle like diamonds in the setting sun. In my desk drawer lies that fake engagement ring. It has now become proof of my strength. Rachel, it's time for your next interview. I stand up with a smile at my secretary's voice. Deep in my heart rests a solid confidence. This is my answer. And the beginning of a new story. Not living for someone else, not living for anyone's approval. Just being honest with my heart and moving forward. That's the path I've chosen.